Welcome to day 4, and what I'm reading day 4 is as Ergo Quilter. I am recording these a couple days in advance just so I can make sure everything's posted and ready to go. And so Amy is sending out the 24 hours in advance, she is sending out a little bit more of a synopsis about what that prompt means, and I'm not waiting for that. So I'm gonna assume that I'm reading this correctly, and we're talking about ergonomics of quilting. So I'm 5'11", I'll tell you that much. And so with things being shorter height, most of the time I have a hard time ergonomically sewing. So I will admit to you, a lot of my things are not set up as they should be, but that is my long-term goal of how things are going to progress. So I do have a couple things in my sewing room that I have already situated to be more ergonomic and be more height appropriate for me. And so let me tell you a couple about this. So my long arm, which is right over here, as you know, my long arm is set up to be my height. So I have my frame at the highest possible height so that I can do it while standing. And then I also have one of the Horn of America drafting chairs so that I can sit on my long arm if I need to, especially when I need to pick out something or my thread broke or something crazy happened. I can then sit instead of leaning hunched over like I do at the frames at work, because those ones are set to be just standard height. Most consumers of long armors are not of my height, so they're more specific for them so they can kind of get their hands on it. My cousin Lisa used my machine and she is just slightly over 5 foot and was like she was on her tippy toes while she was quilting on it, but it works for me. It did work for her, she made it work, but her ergonomics would have been off. And then another thing that I have in my sewing space that has been fantastic is my husky table. So behind me, you've seen me use it for cutting. I've still got my machine on it. It's height adjustable, so then you can put it up as high as you need. And usually I was trying to cut on my kitchen table, and that's a lot lower than it should be. Or my kitchen counter was a better height that I could cut, but there wasn't a lot of space on it. So with this, you've seen me use this for cutting my 3-yard quilts and all that, and I can adjust it up as high as I can, and that's the perfect cutting height for me, and it makes life so much easier. I've tried sewing with this. That was one of my things, thinking, oh, I can use this for sewing, or I could use it for quilting. I could use this for sewing, or I could use it for cutting. Sewing didn't work because it's got the drawers in it, which are fantastic, but because of my height, my knees hit that. So even when I get this at the lower height, my knees are in the way because I got so long legs. So I have tried sewing on this with the drafting chair, and I found that even once I got the legs situated, my arms were up higher, and so I felt like I was like this the whole time, and then I was going to bed and waking up with like intense shoulder pain. So I'm not doing that. And so putting my sewing machine, I've got a smaller sewing table down below that you've seen before. It's one that came from my parents, and it's done great. The only thing I have a little bit issue with is having the space for binding, but other than that, it's been great. The last thing that I have that is wonderful for height people, it's a little messy over here, is I have this big board for my ironing. And so my notes. And so with that, it's adjustable for height. So right now it's at the 36-inch height. I could lower it down to sitting at 30. And so I can iron a whole bunch at once and not have to worry about all of my things falling on the floor or hunching over. And I love it. I can iron quicker for one thing and get a lot more done and ready to go. So there's a little bit about ergonomics of quilting. And let me show you one rotary cutter that I have as well. So with the Grace Company, they also have the True Cut rotary cutter and ruler system brand, and these are to be more ergonomic because you're holding them a little bit differently than your standard Olfa rotary blade, which is more of a stick where you're kind of, your wrist is at a weird angle, that kind of thing. These ones have been really great. I've used them almost interchangeably, just depending on what's in my hand at the time or what rotary cutter I can find, because as quilters, we all know that things go everywhere. So this one has been great. I don't find any wrist issues. I also like that when I have this one, if I need to pick something up, I can just swivel it around and pinch with my little fingers here and have it ready to go. So there's my info and feedback on my ergonomic as I can be. And so now let's go cut out a quilt with my ergonomic rotary cutter. So I found these fabrics left over from my sister's wedding quilt from 2016. So these two are about a yard. These two are less than a yard, but over a yard total combined. So let's see if I can turn them into a 3-yard quilt. Okay, so here is my plan for shadow play. This is from the stash busting with 3-yard quilts, and what better way than this that came from my stash. So my plan, if it all pans out, is that the light blue right here is going to be this gold. The borders and big blocks are going to be this one, and then I don't know if I want to do this one as the outer borders. Actually, I think I'm going to piece in one more. I think I'm going to add this to be, no, that's not right, because that's going to be the ivory, and then this right here will be the dark blue. It's all going to work out. Change it. Ugh. All over the place. I was going to try and like match this in, but I think it would be a little much now that I'm thinking about it. So the light blue is the ivory, the floral is the roses, and then the dark blue is the dark blue polka dot. That's what's going to happen. I think I will have to use some of this. I have more of this, or maybe even that blue one for my binding, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. So I'm going to go iron these out and get them ready to cut for this video. So here's all those fabric cuts. We've got the big focal print for those blocks. These are the little borderings. This is the outer border. I had to kind of fussy a little bit. This is the inner border. And then these are going to be the half square triangles. So come back next time for the end of my half square triangle hiatus.